learn the drop voicings, we learn all the inversions, and it's kind of recommended if you want to create movement, you just jump from one inversion to another, but that actually doesn't really create movement. It's like taking a puzzle and breaking the pieces apart and putting them back together in a different way. It's still the same notes. Movement is about getting off of the chord you're on, thinking about what chord is coming up in the future, and figuring out how you can snake your way through to get there. So we're going to apply diminished movement, diminished chords into the minor 2-5-1 today, and just check out a couple of cool options of how this might play out. Specifically, at least to get started with, for the 5 chord. We're going to throw them in one other place. We're going to superimpose a 5 chord in here later. But for 2-5, in place of 5, we're going to put some diminished chords. Okay? Anytime we're dealing with a dominant flat 9, it's related to 4 diminished chords. So if we're playing 2-5-1 in D minor, we have E half diminished, minor 7 flat 5 to A7. This is the chord that we're gonna throw away and in exchange bring some diminished chords in. And then D minor, okay? D minor 6 or D minor major 7. So for A7, if you're looking at the notated example, we are either going to pick between B flat diminished, C sharp diminished, E diminished, or G diminished. Any and all of these can work. We can play one of them or we can play several of them. However it works out in terms of the rhythm and the flow and the groove and the way we're playing. So if you check out the example that I notated, it starts with, let me pull it up and make sure I remember exactly how I wrote it. It starts with the E half diminished, okay? Cool, that was the voicing. I just wanted to make sure I played it the exact right voicing that I wrote. So it's an E half diminished, but it looks like an E minor 7 because there's no flat fifth in this. It's a basic shell voicing, 1-3-7. E half diminished, and then instead of going to A7, which we could, right, that would be a different type of movement, that's dominant movement. Instead, we're going to go to E diminished, fully diminished. Okay. When it comes to diminished shell voicings, there's a few different ways we can play them. We could keep the lower 2 notes the same and just move our pinky, that 7th fret D note, down to C sharp, and that would be an E diminished shell voicing. That would be 1-3, 1 minor 3, diminished 7. I switched it up. I got rid of the 3rd and I moved the 3rd up to the 5th, the diminished 5th. Both of them are options. Okay. We can do the same thing with the E half diminished. That's why I wanted to check the PDF before I played this for you guys. Sometimes I play half diminished shell voicings, root 5th, flat 7th, root flat 5, flat 7. Sometimes I play them as minor 7. Same thing is true with diminished. They're both options. Okay? So here I switch from one to the other. E half diminished to E fully diminished. If you want to get a little more advanced and squeeze some liquid harmony in here, you can actually connect these 2 notes chromatically. Right? Okay, liquid harmony. 2 notes are staying the same, 1 note is moving. Okay, so there's individual voice movement. It also, that voice movement does not have to be chromatic if you want to add a diatonic passing note. You can do that also. Or instead. Okay, just to create a little bit of inner voice movement. Then in the example that I wrote out, it drops down to C sharp diminished. Because these are the same chord, they're just inversions of each other. And then this resolves to D minor, 6. Okay, Now we're not done yet. I said we're going to superimpose the 5 in here for a second. We have 2 bars of D minor now. We had a bar of E half diminished, a bar of A7, 2 bars of D minor. We could just sit on that chord and vamp on it. That's totally legit, but it's not what I wrote out. Okay? What I wrote out was some additional movement where we dance around between the 1 and the 5. We want to move through the 1 even though there's no real chord progression happening here, just to create some harmonic momentum, okay, to carry us through back to the beginning. If we're going to put this on repeat, if we're playing a tune where we have a minor 2-5-1 a few times in a row, we might want to let the chords continue moving so that we're constantly being pulled through the form. So check out what I wrote. Once we get to D minor, we're going to leave D minor. We're going to go to a tension chord. That tension chord is C sharp diminished. Right? It's where we just came from. So you could think of this either as C sharp diminished or as an inversion of A7 flat 9, like a rootless A7 flat 9. Functionally, they serve the same purpose. They're taking us away from the tonic sound and moving us to a tension sound. And then this is going to resolve us back to D minor, but we're going to keep the bass note moving down. So it looks like an F major triad. In my mind, it's D minor over C. Okay? So I'm getting rid of the D note, putting C in its place, and that gives us what looks like an F major triad, but it's functioning, it's kind of moving D minor away from D minor back to D minor. And then D minor over B, which again is going to look like a B half diminished shell voicing, because it is. And that will take us back to the E half diminished. Okay, let's throw in a few other little, maybe we'll start with a little diminished trick first, see where that takes us, and then if we have time, I'll show one other variation that's not notated here. A few weeks ago, I discussed this little contrary motion diminished trick that I like to use. Thanks, Gary. You may or may not have seen it, so let me show this to you real quick. So this is C sharp diminished, root 5, right? 5th string, 4th fret, 5th fret, 3rd fret. This is an inversion, or shares the same pitches with B flat diminished. Right? We could play B flat here, where everything's parallel and just moving down, or we could play B flat on root 6, the 6th fret of the 6th string. Okay? This might not seem like a big deal at first, but if you pay close attention, we've just created contrary motion, which is worth noting, because contrary motion is awesome. Anytime you can create a chord movement where one note is moving one way and one note is moving another way, do it. It's pretty much always better than parallel movement where all the notes are moving together. So when we play C sharp on the 5th string to B flat on the 6th string, we can create this effect. We also get the note in the middle is oblique movement. It's not moving at all. It's a pedal note. Okay, so we can squeeze this in over the A7. So we could, let's bring the liquid harmony in. So that was a lot of movement right there. That was liquid harmony, which is individual voice movement, inner voice movement, while other notes stay the same. And then we had contrary and oblique motion. Okay, it happened quick. I'm going to slow this down. Check this out. Okay, now here, we could resolve to standard D minor, but where was our lowest note on that diminished chord? It was B flat. So, for the sake of voice leading, we might want to resolve that B flat when we go to D minor to an inversion of D minor to get a nice little bass melody. Some deeper territory with inversions. I usually recommend in the study group to our members that we kind of avoid inversions for a while. That's one of the other things that is pretty standard in jazz guitar comping pedagogy is chord scales and drop voicings. And when we learn the drop voicings, we learn all the inversions, and it's kind of recommended that you jump, pretty quickly. If you want to create movement, you just jump from one inversion to another. But that actually doesn't really create movement. It's like taking a puzzle and breaking the pieces apart and putting them back together in a different way, because it's still the same notes. Movement is about getting off of the chord you're on, thinking about where you want to head, like what chord is coming up in the future, and figuring out how you can snake your way through to get there. Okay, that's harmonic movement. Inversions are really helpful for that, not necessarily to create the movement itself, because they don't create movement, but they can be helpful in terms of when you are moving, how can you get the best bass note in your voice, the best root note, I guess not root note, the lowest note, the bass note, or the top voice, if you want to create like a melodic sound where the top voice is implying a melody. We would want to use inversions for that. So this is a great example where an inversion would work really nicely. I'm on D minor now. I want to get off D minor and go back to one of our diminished shapes so I can go right back up. Right? Now here's D minor over C. Now here's D minor over B. Now here's E minor, 7 flat 5 over B flat. Here I might let go of the need for diminished. I might just go to A7 because I'm already playing 2 notes of the diminished chord. So it might be a cooler sound to get off of that and to create more movement by moving these notes to the dominant. Or maybe E flat dominant. I'm getting into dominant territory. I'm not going to do that because I want to keep this short and concise, and it's all about diminished. The other thing we could do is this. Check this out. E, half diminished, to E diminished. Now we can do this contrary motion trick up here. So E diminished to root 6, C sharp diminished. To D minor, up here on root 6. And then walk down C sharp diminished, D minor over C, D minor over B. Okay, lots of little quirky angular twists and turns hidden just inside something as simple as a minor 2-5-1 or a regular old 2-5-1. Miles, I'm glad you're on here. I know you love that contrary motion. And don't drop the ball on that oblique motion too. That's in here. Yeah, I know we have a tendency to want to jump really quickly to the advanced sounding stuff, but for the most part, most of what I played was a simple root position, root structure, shell voicing, right? Today we're not doing any triads, we're doing the harmonic version of a triad. So triads are all about the melodic structure. In the melodic triads approach, it's kind of like what the piano player's right hand would be doing, and the shell voicing is the simplest thing that we might see in the piano player's left hand. So we're just kind of controlling harmony with 1s, 3s, and 7s, and then understanding how chord types like to move so that we can create harmonic tension that carries us through a progression and gives us more than we're going to see in a real book. So we can open a real book, look at the changes, understand where the form is headed, where the chord progression is taking us, and then insert different types of movement to create more unexpected twists and turns, either for playing solo guitar, for comping for ourselves, for comping for someone else, for arranging. Comes in play in all different ways. Take this idea and mess with it just with the 2-5-1 for a while. If it makes sense and you're getting the hang of it, then try applying it to some tunes. If you're not in the study group and you want more in-depth lessons, come and hang with us and check out our Chords for Life course. It goes through this type of movement, but much more in depth than with a full etude, just using diminished over standard. And then we also do dominant, chromatic, and diatonic movement. So it's all in there. Plus there's some fun bonus lessons for more advanced voicings and ideas. We're going to leave it at that today. If you have questions, leave them in the comments. Let me know. If you're able to pull this off, also drop it in the comment. Let me know. And I will see you guys. I'll see you guys tomorrow for advanced melodic triad concepts. Happy practicing. Hey YouTube, it's Jordan Clemens with NYC Jazz Guitar Master Classes and the Melodic Triad Study Group. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I have a ton of content coming out on YouTube this year. We've been doing daily jazz guitar lessons, so I'm going to be posting videos like this pretty much every day. So if you dug this and you want to follow me, subscribe and make sure that you turn on notifications so that you can watch more videos like this. Thanks again for watching. Hope to see you in the comment section. Hope to see you in the next video.